I was the top sales performer, but I helped a girl who was unable to escape due to housework and ended up with a burn on my face. As a result, I was treated like a monster, sent to the countryside, and worked as a windowside employee for 10 years. Then, the daughter of a large company's president appeared to kill me. When she saw my face, I thought she would treat me like a monster, but she had been looking for me all this time. I never expected that this encounter would change my life. My name is Akugo Taniguchi, 23 years old. I work in the sales department of Sunrise Chemical, a manufacturer of daily necessities and cosmetics in Tokyo. It's only my second year at the company, but I have already achieved the top sales position and have high expectations from those around me. Why did I achieve results? My strengths are my ability to accurately analyze situations and my ability to make flexible proposals. I incorporate the true needs of my clients and put together the best proposals to meet them. And above all, I think my tenacity and never give up is my greatest weapon. I don't have any outstanding tips. The job of a salesperson is to just be close to the customer. I'm just doing it. Today, as always, I was making final checks on the documents to go to a big company. Okay, everything will be fine today. I'm sure the interview will be a success. I put my laptop in my bag and called out to my boss. I'm off to the first interview. Yeah, I'll leave it to you, Taniguchi. With my boss' words in my heart, I left the sales floor with a smile. On the way, I saw my colleague looking at me for being undressed, but I pretended not to see. This is because I remembered what my senior told me when I became the #1 sales performer. I'm sure there will be people who try to drag you down. But ignore them and focus on your own work. No matter what people think, I'll just do my best at my job. That's how I got the #1 sales performer. After leaving the company, under the summer sun, I hurried to the interview location. It was about a 10-minute walk from the subway. I checked my watch and there were still more than 30 minutes until the appointment. Okay, everything's going well. As I muttered and moved my cheek, I saw black smoke rising from the front. I heard a loud noise. It's housework. Someone shouted and pointed their finger, and when I looked in the direction, a 2-story building was engulfed in flames. The fire engine had not yet arrived, and the Yoma were starting to gather around. I stopped for a moment, but then started walking again. I couldn't be late for Shodan. It was time. My daughter is still inside. I stopped again at the necessary scream. I turned around and saw a woman in her 30s crying and screaming, unable to wait for the fire department and trying to run towards the building, while the people around her desperately tried to hold her back. The firefighters will arrive in 5 minutes, so please wait a little longer. A person who seemed to be a police officer persuaded the woman. Meanwhile, the flames were getting bigger and bigger, and the woman was becoming more and more panicked. Various thoughts were working in my head. Shodan, career. And now a life that was asking for help. What should I do? What should I do? I had many doubts, but my body had already started to move. Where are you? I took off my jacket, threw my bag, and before I knew it, I was running towards the woman. She's at the back of the 2nd floor. Help my daughter, my daughter. Hearing what the woman said, I told her to wait and ran towards the building. I heard voices around me telling me to stop, but I couldn't stop. My body was moving on its own. The entrance to the building was already engulfed in flames, but the emergency stairs on the side seemed to still be usable. I ran up the stairs and reached the 2nd floor. The smoke made it hard to see and it was hard to breathe. Is anyone there? I shouted as I walked down the hallway. I heard some kind of noise coming from the back room. When I opened the door, a girl was cowering under the desk. She looked about 15 years old. She was in her uniform and trembling with fear. "It's okay. She's still alive. It's okay. I'm here to help you." I approached the girl and held out my hand. The girl cried and grabbed my hand and stood up. I tried to pull her hand and leave the building, but the hallway was already engulfed in flames. It didn't look like I could escape like this. As I left the room looking for another exit, the ceiling of the hallway collapsed. I quickly grabbed her, and a hot piece of the cover hit my face. It hurt, but my top priority now was to rescue the girl. I didn't have time to complain about the pain, and maybe because of my adrenaline, it flew away somewhere. I had no choice. I had no choice but to get out of the window. I picked up the girl and headed for the window. Even though it was the second floor, jumping was dangerous. But I had no other choice. I held her tightly and jumped out of the window. Soon the people around me came running over. I left the girl with someone else and collapsed to the floor. I saw Saori's mother running over and embracing the girl. After watching the mother and child reunion, I finally realized my condition. My face was hot and I couldn't see well on the right side of my field of vision. And I was in intense pain in my leg. I didn't think I could walk in this body. I heard the people around me screaming, but I couldn't say anything and just lost consciousness. After that, I woke up in a hospital bed. "Good, you woke up." The nurse had a happy expression on her face. I quickly put my hand on my face, but my face was almost completely covered in bandages. But I'm still following her. There may be a mark from my right cheek to my forehead. I was just stunned by the nurse's sad face, but there was something more important than that. "Is the girl safe?" "Yes, she's safe. She just left." "I see. Good." I sighed. And then I suddenly remembered the consultation. I hurriedly tried to get up, but the nurse said it was okay to let me go. "Someone from your company came and told me the situation. She told me that she had contacted the person I was originally consulting with." Then I looked at my cell phone and saw that my boss and the person I was consulting with had contacted me, and that we would reschedule the appointment later. I sank back into bed. At least the girl was safe. That was all I could ask for. A few days later, I was about to leave the company, and looking in the mirror again, I was shocked at my appearance. There was a reddish-black burn mark from my right cheek to my forehead. According to the master, the color will fade over time, but it will not disappear completely. I looked at myself in the mirror and took a deep breath. It's okay. The child was saved. I have no regrets. Telling myself that, I left the hospital. Later, when I went to work for the first time after being a member of the team, I noticed that the people around me looked at me coldly for some reason. "Welcome back, Taniguchi." The master called out to me, but his eyes were fixed on my burn scars for a moment. The same was true of my colleagues. Everyone tried to act cheerful, but I could see confusion and pity lurking in their eyes. The previous meeting has been rescheduled for next week. My boss said this with a smile, but his smile was stiff. I couldn't feel the same expectation as before, and instead felt a sense of resignation. The hand that was about to tap my shoulder stopped for a moment and tapped me on the back. "Do your best." I somehow felt that they were saying that. "Thank you. I will definitely make it a success." I answered, but the reactions of those around me were cold. Taniguchi Hideo, wood grabbing? It was especially noticeable because we were in the same year. That's what Tamura said when he approached me as I was drinking coffee alone in the break room. What are you talking about? It's about you helping a girl with housework. It's certainly impressive, but are you sure this time's interview is okay? Tamura's words were more sarcastic than concerned. He couldn't hide the grin on his face. Of course. I'm fully prepared. I see. You never know how the client will react when they see your face. With that, Tamura left. I unconsciously put my hand on my cheek as I saw him laughing and kissing me back. This scar will affect the interview. No way. As if to convince myself. On the day of the interview, I prepared more carefully than usual and headed to the site. However, the attitude of the person in charge was clearly different from the previous meeting. I was sure that we had become close. This talk was supposed to be almost a done deal. But the person in front of me didn't seem to have that feeling anymore, and instead I sensed awkwardness and confusion. Taniguchi-san, are you okay? The person in charge asked me with concern, but his eyes didn't leave my burn wound. His glances made me think that this was the only fate I would have after this burn. I predicted Heisei. Yes. There's no problem anymore. Thank you for your help today. I bowed my head and began my presentation. The content was perfect. There was no dirt. The sales materials were also perfectly finished. However, I couldn't read the person in charge's expression. Rather, his expression was stern and he looked at his watch many times as if he was telling me to hurry up and finish. We will consider your proposal. I will contact you with the conclusion later, so the consultation ended without any questions. In the past, there would have been more in-depth discussions and positive reactions on the spot. We even had casual conversation. But this time, I felt a sharp pain in my heart when the person in charge left the large office as if to say that he was going home early. It must be a break. I bit my lip in frustration at the feeling of failure I had never felt before. And my hunch was right. A few days later, I received a polite notice of refusal. Since then, my sales performance has skyrocketed. When I met with new clients, they were clearly shaking when they saw my face, and my relationship with existing clients gradually became awkward. Taniguchi, can you come to the break room? One day, I was called by my boss and faced with the harsh reality. I'm sorry, but we've decided to change some of the clients you are in charge of. My boss said apologetically. What, a change? That's right. In particular, the clients related to cosmetics have been taken over by Tamura. I'd like you to be in charge of a different field. I was speechless. In other words, they decided that my burn scars would have a negative impact on the company's image. Tamura's grin floated in my head. It was exactly as he said. I understand. What else could I say? I could only nod obediently. The next 6 months were a nightmare for me. Sales performance dropped again, and the distance between me and my colleagues grew. Tamura, in particular, took over the major clients I was in charge of and achieved results, and was breathing heavily. Every day he smiled happily, and looked at me with a grin. Taniguchi, you're tired. Tamamura approached my desk with a sightseeing bag in one hand. It was the office after most people had gone home. I continued working overtime while glaring at my computer, and when Tamura tapped me on the shoulder, I answered calmly. Yes. You're tired. How are you doing lately? Those words contained obvious sarcasm. You dare to say how are you doing? The fact that he took the trouble to call out to me after seeing my current situation shows Tamura's character. Well, I can only answer that way. Looking down at me like that, Tamura snorted. I see. That's good. Thanks to you, I'm the top sales performer. Especially since we've secured a contract with that company that you broke off the negotiations with. A pain ran through my chest. It was the contract I wanted more than anything. I bit my lip and told my throbbing heart to calm down as I opened my mouth. Congratulations. Well, when I see your face, I feel anxious too. In sales, the first impression is everything. Tamura's words deeply hurt my heart. But I no longer had the energy to argue. Tamura patted me on the shoulder, said goodbye, and left the company. His back was light and I felt envious rather than annoyed. I just had that feeling. The next day, I was told to move to a local company. The reason was a reorganization of the organization, but in reality it was a left-wing battle. Because my performance was poor. It's not so clear. The company side too. Do your best to get a new customer at Kyushu. My boss said it apologetically, but I wonder what he was thinking inside. No, my boss was nice to me. I was annoyed at my increasingly bad personality, but I could only silently nod and accept this left line. And even though I was assigned to the sales department at Kyushu Death, my actual work was mainly document creation and PR support. I had almost no opportunity to meet customers directly, and spent my days as a window-side employee. No one would have expected that a former sales ace would fall so far in just a few months. I think so too. But I didn't regret my choice. If I hadn't saved her then, she would surely have lost her life. I saved her. I was able to save her. That's all I need. I spent my days praying for her to be well. It's been 10 years since I rescued that girl from her housework and left her at Kyushu Death. Taniguchi-san, can you finish this document by tomorrow? A young employee at the dead approached my desk and showed me the document. I'm 33 now. It's been 10 years since I've lived at Kyushu Death. My memories of being a former sales ace have almost faded, and I'm just a clerical worker. Still, I do the work I'm assigned to do properly. That's all I can do. Of course, by tomorrow morning, I'll be there. I answered calmly. The burn marks have faded a little over time, but they were still noticeable. However, the deceased's colleagues have already gotten used to it, and they don't seem to mind it and treat me effectively. That was the most appreciated thing for me. It's true that they were surprised at first, but they got used to it as they interacted with me. That was the only relief. Thank you. Oh, and it seems that the people from headquarters are coming today. They said that everyone should be careful. It's rare to have an inspection. The absorber is small, and inspections from headquarters are rare. I looked up at him in surprise. Has the people from headquarters ever come before? Thinking back on the past 10 years, it's only been once or twice. I turned my chair to face him and heard a squeal. Yes. It seems that the daughter of the president of a major distribution company is also coming, so the car is a bit noisy," he said with a troubled look on his face, then said, "Well then," and left. I shrugged and looked at the computer on my desk. An inspection, right? But an inspection doesn't concern me. I just need to continue working quietly. I've been in sales for a long time, and I've been just creating documents here for 10 years. Then, in the afternoon, the office suddenly became hectic. It seems that an inspection team from the head office has arrived. Even so, I continued to silently create documents in the corner of the room. It was my skill to be as inconspicuous as possible. No one was to blame, but I knew that these burn marks would not give a good impression to the other party, so it would be better not to be seen by the inspection team as much as possible. "This is the sales department of Kyushu office." I heard the voice of the head of the office. After that, the inspection team came into the room. I continued working without looking up. At that moment, I heard a young woman's voice. It seemed to be pointing at me. Now that I think about it, the president's daughter said that she was coming too. She was probably the president's daughter. I glanced forward. The chief of the corpses looked at me for a moment and said, "Oh, my name is Taniguchi. I'm in charge of public relations support." Quote. Tension was running through the car. The other employees looked scared and were looking at me, the chief of the corpses, and the woman. Maybe I was the only one working on the bridge, so I was noticed. I wanted to say hello to Taniguchi-san, but when I heard that voice, I had no choice but to stand up. The person who came with the sound of footsteps was a woman in her mid-20s with a sophisticated atmosphere and a deep voice. When I showed my face, the woman looked clearly surprised. The woman was staring at my face. The people around me looked awkward and started to look away. I sighed in my heart as usual. The same reaction again. I'm sure the woman didn't mean any harm, but even though she was staring at me so much, I took a deep breath and opened my mouth to introduce myself. At that moment, "I've been looking for you for a long time." The woman suddenly said that. Don't you remember? You helped me with housework 10 years ago." The memory of that day came back to my mind. The building engulfed in flames, the girl cowering under the desk, and the moment I jumped out of the window while holding her in my arms. 10 years ago, that housework brought me here. It wasn't a pleasant memory, but it was clearly the moment that changed my life. And when the woman in front of me said those words, I heard something inside me collapse. Could this person really be the yes from that time? Saori Kahara. The child that Taniguchi-san helped that day. I was speechless. I never imagined that the woman in front of me was the girl I helped that day. Could everyone please leave their seats for a moment? I have something to talk to Taniguchi-san about. With her words, everyone, including the head of the deceased, left the room. I bowed slightly to the employees who kept glancing at me. Then, when we were alone, Kahara-san looked straight into my eyes and spoke. I've wanted to thank you ever since that day. But I don't know where you went, so why are you here? Oh, I'm currently thinking about developing a new cosmetics line for our company's business expansion. I was inspecting Atoshi's factory for that reason, and when I heard that there was a dead person nearby, I stopped by. My head was a mess. It was like something out of a novel that the girl I rescued from the flames would appear in front of me 10 years later as the daughter of a top company president. She handed me her business card and looked up at me with a smile. "Taniguchi-san, if you hadn't saved me, I wouldn't be here now. I'm truly grateful." There were tears in her eyes. After that, Kahara-san held my hand and said this. "Taniguchi-san, I actually have a proposal." She had a serious expression in the night. I shook my head but tilted my head and only heard the proposal. She nodded her head vigorously and opened her mouth. "Yes. Our company is considering a large deal with Atosha Sunrise Chemical. In particular, it's a project worth about 1 billion yen to develop and sell a new cosmetics line." I gasped. A 1 billion yen scale is equivalent to the annual sales of all the dead. "And I would like to ask Taniguchi-san to be the contact person for this project." But I'm Taniguchi-san. I heard that you used to be a sales ace. I heard that at the head office." I gave a bitter smile at her words. That was a long time ago. Now I'm in sales, but I don't go out. I spend my days creating documents. I've been away from the first battle of sales for 10 years. And I unconsciously touched my cheek. Just having these burn scars makes sales difficult in the first place. I don't think I could be the contact person for such a big contract. But Kahara-san looked at me and said clearly, "Taniguchi-san's burn scars were made in exchange for my life. There's no need to shy away from them." There was a strong will in her voice. What is the basis for saying such a thing? That's what I thought in my head, but seeing her confident appearance made my heart tremble a little. But the reality is that just because I'm the daughter of a company president, it doesn't mean I can do big jobs easily. This project is also a test of my abilities. That's why we need Taniguchi's power. I was speechless at Kahara's serious academic admonishment. Let me organize my thoughts a bit. I told Kahara and left the room and headed to the bathroom. I went into the bathroom stall and held my head. I asked myself what the situation was, but I couldn't find an answer and the situation wasn't going to change. When asked if I wanted to do sales one more time, I answered that I did. But I couldn't. The reality is that because of this wound, there is no one who will listen to me carefully. Ha! As I was spitting out the words, other people came into the bathroom. I had never heard their voices before, so I thought they were probably some of the employees who had come to inspect the place. They were talking loudly and confidently, even though they were strangers. Is that Kahara Saori really the daughter of a company president? She's young, but she's so arrogant. She's a girl. She has no talent anyway. That's nice. She's riding on her parents' coattails. This world is really unfair. I opened my eyes wide when I heard that conversation. Is that person also judged only by appearance? Me, who has burned scars, and the beautiful daughter of a company president, Kahara-san. At first glance, we seem to have been treated in completely opposite ways, but perhaps our true nature is the same. It's the same for other people, and anyway, everyone only cares about appearances without looking at the inside. Thinking about that, I was shocked. That evening, I went to a nearby izakaya by myself. An unexpected reunion and a 1 billion yen project. My head was a mess, so I wanted to drink a little to clear it up. I entered the bar at the counter and sat down at a suitable seat to order. It was a quiet time of day with few people in the bar. I decided to clear things up while there were no people around. When the beer was brought and I took a sip, I thought, what? I turned around when I heard someone calling me, Taniguchi-san, and there was Kahara-san standing there. It seems she came alone. She looked at me in surprise, then smiled. Kahara-san, what a coincidence. I never thought I'd meet you in a place like this. Kahara-san sat down at the seat next to me. When the waiter came over, I asked him if I wanted a beer and he blew his hand with the butt of the beer he had given me. Are you drinking alone? Yes. I had some thoughts, and so did I. Came here alone to think. There was a moment of silence until the waiter brought the beer. However, after we toasted and drank more and more, the conversation progressed little by little. At first, we were excited about work and Fukuoka. However, as the alcohol gradually increased, Hara's expression relaxed. Actually, Taniguchi-san. Kahara-san looked a little drunk and said with a red face, I'm really tired. Are you tired? Yes. Everyone at work looks at me because I'm the president's daughter. Kahara-san suddenly stopped using honorific language and sighed. No matter how hard I try and get results, they say it's only natural because I'm my father's bones. I listened to her words in silence. Tears gradually gathered in her eyes. The glass with the beer was gone. I called the waiter and asked for a new one, and listened to her words again. The people who approach me are not me, but the CEO's daughter. Who can see the real me? Kahara-san gripped the glass tightly. I bit my lip, feeling like I was being fooled. I want to succeed in this project with my own efforts. But even if I succeed, I'm sure they'll say I'm a girl. I strongly sympathized with those words. People judge only by appearances and titles. I was avoided because of my burn, and she was labeled as the CEO's daughter and put down. On the surface, we were treated the opposite way, but in essence we are the same. We are similar. It's a different way from Taniguchi-san, but it's really painful to be judged only by those above you. Kahara-san looked at me with teary eyes. At that moment, I felt something burning inside me. For the past 10 years, no one has understood my feelings. But this woman in front of me understands the same pain from a different perspective. Kahara-san, I almost choked on my voice. But I thought I had to say something here. If I continue like this, I'm sure I won't change. In fact, I've always thought that too. Isn't that right? Konohana smiled a little and said, we're alike. We're suffering in different ways, but in the same way. I felt something hot well up in my eyes. I had met someone who understood me. I was overcome with such emotion. I had never met anyone like that before. Even when someone said the same thing to me, it was just words. I had lived my life believing only in myself, so as not to be swayed by words with no substance. But in reality, I wanted someone to acknowledge me. But Hahara looked at me with a serious look. And then he spoke. I don't want to lose. Taniguchi, you can't lose either. I won't lose. Yes, our value isn't in our appearance or titles. It's in our content. Because it's our content, let's work hard together. I'll work hard, so Taniguchi, stand up too. Kahara's words had power. Even when he was drunk, there was a strong will in his eyes. The scars that Taniguchi has are not hard to see. They are proof that he saved my life. I'm proud of him, so when I said that, Kahara leaned forward. Let's work hard together and not give up. Those words penetrated deep into my heart. For the past 10 years, I have been running away from the nature of people. But this person is different. She sees my scars and still sees me as a person. She is telling me to stand up. Those are not words from above. I understand. I renewed my resolve. Let's do our best. I will try my best again. Let's make this project a success together. When I said that, a bright smile spread across Kahara's face. I had a premonition that this meeting would be the catalyst that changed my life. The next morning, I reported to the chief of the dead about the proposal I received from Kahara. It was a big contract worth 1 billion yen. I prepared the documents and submitted them with the same enthusiasm as before, no, even more than before. The chief of the dead looked at me in surprise and said that it was on the scale of 1 billion yen, then nodded his head several times while looking at the documents I had created. That would make the head office happy. Taniguchi, can you take care of this? Yes, please let me do it. The chief of the dead patted me on the shoulder happily. Then I stood up and said loudly so that everyone could hear, okay, you'll be in charge of the liaison. I'll contact the head office if necessary. We absolutely have to make this big deal a success. Hearing the president's voice, the others looked up at me, wondering what was going on. They applauded and told me to do my best. Everyone was looking at me with a smile. I thought to myself that this was no time to be moping around after this burn. Then a conference call with the head office was set up, and I explained the project I had received from Kahara. The head office executives watching through the screen were clearly surprised. It wasn't just surprise at the large deal, but also surprise that a window-side employee with a burned scar had suddenly jumped into the front line. Among them was my former boss. Taniguchi, it's been a while. My former boss had a smile on his face. I think that's true. After this burn, he didn't look at me properly. I'm impressed that you brought me such a large project. Those words were from a boss I once trusted wholeheartedly. I had mixed feelings at the moment, but I responded in a businesslike manner. I had no choice but to do so. Thank you. I will do my best. The next day, executives from the head office came to visit the company to finalize the contract details. Among them was my former colleague Tamura. Taniguchi, it's been a while. Tamura, who met me in the elevator, spoke to me not in his sarcastic manner as before, but somewhat hesitantly. His eyes were trying to find out something. Ah, it's been a while. I answered calmly. I never thought you would bring such a big project. It hasn't been decided yet. I'm going to do my best from now on. Tamura looked at me with a complicated expression, but said nothing more. The next day, a meeting with Kahara-san was held. She appeared with several staff members, and in addition to me, the head of the company and executives from the head office were also there. When everyone gathered, Kahara-san and I went to the front and started our presentation. Thank you for gathering here today. Our company would like to work with Sunrise Chemical to develop a new cosmetics line. The 1 billion yen contract was for product development, manufacturing, marketing and sales. If this could be realized, the company would be safe. The eyes of both the executives and employees were glued to it. The executives at the headquarters also nodded in agreement at Kahara-san's enthusiasm and logical explanation. She is not the daughter of the company president. I simply thought that she had made it this far with her own abilities. When the presentation was successfully finished and I was cleaning up, my boss from when I was at the headquarters approached me. Taniguchi-kun, to be honest, I was sorry that I had moved you to the absorber. No, that's in the past now. But this project will prove your true value. After the project is successful, I will consider returning to the headquarters. I had mixed feelings when I heard these words. I once longed to return to the main shoot, but now that was no longer everything. Why am I doing this project? It's not to return to the headquarters. This is a battle with myself. Thank you. But for now, I want to focus on the success of this project. I bowed my head slightly. Seeing me like that, he nodded and said he had high expectations of me before leaving. And just before the door to the room closed, I met the man standing in the hallway, looking my way. It was Tamura. Tamura glared at me and walked down the hallway with his boss. After that, the preparations for the contract continued to proceed smoothly. I was in contact with Hara-san almost every day, and sometimes we would discuss things until late at night. I felt that I was gradually drawn to her professional attitude and the human expressions she sometimes showed. The end of the online meeting. While checking the schedule, Kahara-san said, "Taniguchi-san, is it okay to have the final confirmation the day after tomorrow?" "Yes. We're fully prepared." "Good. Now I might be recognized by my father too." There was a little tension in her voice. This big project is not just about me, but about her. And it's a project that will involve the entire company. It's no exaggeration to say that the fortunes of the company are in the hands of this person. I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly, then called Kahara-san and her. "It's okay. I'm sure it will be a success. Thank you. I'm really glad to have Taniguchi-san here." When I hung up the phone, a warm feeling spread in my chest. I've been shut up in the sky for the past 10 years. But meeting Kahara-san has made me move forward again. I was excited to think that the final confirmation would be made the day after tomorrow and the contract would be official. I might be able to return to sales again. I'll take off the chains I've been putting on myself and start taking another step forward. Yes. I was ready. Finally, just as the final confirmation of the contract was due tomorrow, my smartphone vibrated violently. It was a call from the chief of the dead. "Taniguchi, it's a big deal. Please come to the office right away." "What's wrong?" "I'll explain when you get there. Please hurry." I hurried to the office because of his voice, and the chief of the dead pointed to the tablet with a pale face. He ran over and showed it to me. It showed a social media screen. There was a photo of me and Kahara-san drinking at an izakaya posted there the other day. And underneath it was a malicious comment. What is going on behind the scenes with the CEO of a major company and his ugly sales manager? I felt the blood run down my face. The chief of death further said with a slumped shoulder, "This has spread." I swiped the tablet in a hurry and it had already spread to many people. Moreover, other comments said that it was strange for a cosmetics company to put an employee with a burn on the front page. I stared at my image on the tablet. The burn scars were certainly clearly visible. And next to her was a smiling Kahara-san. It would not be strange for a third party to think that it was 3 times. But why is this something like this? I'm just an employee, so why is this a big deal? Kahara-san may be the daughter of a company president, but when asked if she is high enough to be cherished, she is not. At that moment, my cell phone rang and it was Kahara-san. Taniguchi-san, have you seen the SNS? Her voice was calm in the night. Yes. I just saw it. I am really sorry about this trip. Why are you apologizing? We have done nothing wrong. Let's go ahead with the contract. But if we continue like this, the company's image will be fine. Leave it to me. I will resolve it. Kahara-san does not seem to care at all and continues the conversation as if it is a matter of course. Even after I hung up the phone, my heart was still heavy. In the end, my presence caused another problem. Maybe if this continues, my contract will be over. I started thinking about such things. A few hours later, I received a notice of an emergency video conference from the head office. The faces of the executives were on the screen, all with grim expressions. One of them asked me how I was going to explain the situation, and I just apologized. I'm sorry. Mr. Kahara and I were just having a business meeting, and we were just talking about work. However, various rumors have already started to spread on social media, and I was told sternly that if this continues, it could lead to a decline in the company's image, let alone a contract. I was speechless. Will everything be ruined because of my burn scars again? But suddenly, Mr. Kahara's figure appeared on the screen. She was also participating in this meeting. Excuse me. Let me explain this matter. The room quieted for a moment after Mr. Kahara's words. I swallowed my words as the atmosphere seemed to be that all the executives were waiting to see what would happen. What on earth is Kahara planning to tell us? But, you see, Kahara. This time, this scandal is no longer a scandal. We haven't done anything wrong. Kahara continues, cutting off the executive's words. It's true that we haven't done anything wrong. We just happened to be drinking together at a bar. We only talked about work. Unlike me, who was depressed, Kahara continued with a relieved expression. I will be live streaming on SNS from 8 o'clock today. Kahara declared with a resigned attitude. Live streaming on SNS. I'm not the only one. Questions arise in the minds of others as well. So I will clear up all the misunderstandings. The executives looked at Kahara with a confused look, but no one argued against her strong will. Then Kahara called my name, Taniguchi, please watch the live streaming at 8 o'clock. I just nodded without saying anything after saying that. I can't imagine what she's trying to do. But I was confident at night that it would be okay. Kahara must be that kind of person. Maybe she has a natural gift to make people think that this person is okay. And so the emergency meeting ended. Night came with no idea of what would happen to this contract. I paid early and practically stared at my smartphone. Will the misunderstanding really be resolved? When I opened the SNS app, Kahara's live broadcast had already begun. She began speaking in a calm voice from what seemed to be an office. Good evening. This is Kahara Sao. Today I started this live broadcast because I wanted to tell you something important. Kahara mentioned yesterday's SNS post and began to explain that there seemed to be many misunderstandings about my relationship with Taniguchi. 10 years ago, I was in danger of losing my life due to some household chores. I was 15 years old at the time. When I had nowhere to run and was in despair, a man jumped into the fire for me. The screen switched and an old video was played. There was a man jumping off a building engulfed in flames with a little girl in his arms. It was undoubtedly me from 10 years ago. Someone must have been filming it. There was so much Ajima there. It must have been posted on SNS as well. I had already been depressed by this time, so I didn't notice it at all. This man was Taniguchi Seigo. He put himself at risk to save me, and as a result, he suffered deep burns on his face. Kahara's voice trembles. His heroic act was reported in the local news at the time, but was soon forgotten. But I never forgot. The screen showed a photo of Sao and her mother at the hospital, and me wrapped in bandages. I didn't know. I didn't know it was on the news. I listened to the rest while holding my smartphone tightly. I am alive now thanks to him. And by chance, we were able to meet again in the business world. His burn after injury is proof that he saved my life. I think that describing it as difficult to see is an insult to his courage and sacrifice. Kahara's words were powerful and the number of viewers was rapidly increasing. Messages of support and those who were there appeared one after another in the comments section. Some of them had seen this video. The words that it is painful to see such a brave person being criticized also asked the question, what is beauty? The new cosmetics line that we are working on with Sunrise Chemical is a question that asks the question, what is beauty? Not only external beauty, but also inner beauty, courage, and compassion. Isn't that what true beauty is all about? Her words brought tears to my eyes. And I have a special announcement to make. As part of this new cosmetics line, we will be developing a product that specializes in covering burn scars and bubbles. Taniguchi-san will also be cooperating as an advisor in the development of this product. Finally, I bowed my head and said thank you, and the broadcast ended. After that, my smartphone was unstoppable. Messages from the head of the deceased and my colleagues came one after another. Some were apologizing for scaring me. I felt somehow saved just by being able to see them. The next morning's news featured Kahara-san's live broadcast and the video of the fire rescue from 10 years ago. Our topic was spreading rapidly on the internet, and many people sent messages of support. Some were from people who were suffering from similar burns. When I see things like that, I realize the value of my scars. And what surprised me the most was that the number of visitors to Sunrise Chemical's official website had increased, and inquiries about the new cosmetics line were flooding in. Taniguchi, something's going wrong. The chief of the deceased greeted me with excitement. The company was receiving a flood of requests for interviews from the media. I smiled as I watched the president hurrying to work, thinking that he couldn't handle inquiries about the product. The official contract ceremony took place that afternoon. Far from being a flaming incident on SNS, the project was attracting a lot of attention at once. It was said that there was no way they wouldn't sign the contract. After the ceremony, I received a call from the company's legal department. They said that as a result of a disclosure request for malicious posts on SNS, the poster was identified. It was Tamura. I was surprised by Tamura. I knew that Tamura didn't like me. But I didn't know that he would do something like this. And since he was burned, Tamura was clearly more active. Yes. It seems that Mura made such a post because he was afraid that he would be pushed aside again in this project. That's what he said. So the company's policy is to fire the chief. I had mixed feelings. Tamura's demeanor is not forgivable. But he was probably also desperate for his status and reputation. That said, there are some things that should not be done. Hoping that she would reflect on her actions, I quietly hung up the phone. A year has passed since then, and the new cosmetics line we jointly developed has been a great success. In particular, the special foundation that covers burn scars has been highly praised by the medical field. Thanks to that, I have returned to the head office as the sales manager and am once again active in the first round. And one more thing, Ikuo, it's almost time for the meeting. Saori and I are now lovers. The strange bond that began during that housework has brought us together for 10 years. Oh, I'm going now. I stood up and looked at my face in the mirror. The burn scars are still clearly visible. But they are no longer a sign of suffering, but a sign that signals the beginning of a new life. These scars are what made me who I am today.